Grace and peace.
Always worthy of the praise, saints. We was grace and peace be unto you.
From God our Father.
We was trying to wait for for Chief Elder, Chief Elder Bishop Williams, but I guess the devil got in his way. He had to cry sometimes. But we're gonna press on anyhow.
Something hindered him.
He laid awake at night, but that's all right.
My God.
Jesus will fix it, Doc.
Irregardless.
Woo! But Tubbs, what we got on schedule today, man?
All right, we gonna celebrate the Father's Day, since yesterday was subpar to many of the other holidays. So we want to talk about some of the issues that be with the fatherhood community. So we want to start naturally with all the fathers in the room right now.
Oh, I'm out of this one. I'm out of this one.
Got quiet, Saints. It got quiet.
Hey, Sean, you'll appreciate this. Johnny Brown, when nobody said amen, Johnny Brown said last week, and a hush fell over Jerusalem.
Johnny Brown crazy, man.
Sean, you know I couldn't take that, Sean.
I know you love that. I know you love that. And a hush came over Jerusalem. That's a preacher, though.
For sure. But now I'm out of this conversation, so no father for me. I am a godfather. Thanks to my brother Jeff over there. That's my guy. He made me a godfather of one of his sons, but that's my extent, brethren.
That's the fullest of it, right? Yeah, I'm with you.
You don't got no dog at home, man?
No, sir. I'm not a father of a pet, not at all.
Oh,
Lord,
man, I was about to say no kittens or no kitty cats.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about getting a dog, man. But then I think when I come home late at night from church or wherever I'm going out early in the morning, I see people walking them dogs, and then I think about the fact that they don't contribute to the house. Like, they don't do nothing, and I gotta go outside to wake up to take you to the bathroom. Nah. Then the landlord tell you got to pay an extra $400 to have it, and I'm like, that's for what?
God, extra $400?
$400.
God, dog.
Lord.
That's half the rent right there.
We preparing you for children, Doc.
Is that what it is?
Children ain't cheap.
Nothing. It's a hard gospel, Tubbs, but you in there. You preaching it. You preaching it.
Reverend Jeff, you got a word?
I'm gonna just chime in when everybody else has spoke what they have to say. I'm a man of few words.
How many children you got though, brother Joe?
I was blessed with 3 young boys. My sin just caught up with me a few years ago.
Happy Father's Day, Jeff. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, brother.
Same to you, bro.
That's from the North Carolina delegation.
Amen. Well, Bishop Dockalock,
Smurf, what you got for us,
Doc?
Man, I will say, man, having kids is it's an interesting thing, because one, I feel like I remember when my father-in-law said this to me, and it stick with me. Being a father is a thankless job. Father and a husband. And it's unfortunate that I feel like you really gotta put on your big boy shorts, because we have expectation at times, just for a thank you at times, you know what I mean? But
we don't
a
ask
lot
for
of times, that's all we don't want. I asked for I asked for no bands and nothing. I just want to thank you. That's all. But we got a lot of times really, man, be locked and loaded in Christ and God, because I know sometimes you can feel overwhelmed at times because you're giving, and you're not. Sometimes it feel like you're not receiving as much as you're giving.
Wow.
You know, um, but the blessing is when you see them do good and when you see how respectful they are, and you're I guess that's your thank you that you get, a lot of times. And I mean, just to see them excel. My daughter, she's now going to the second grade.
Wow.
you know just the little things, me seeing her learn how to, I taught her how to tie her shoes, and to see
Nice.
her execute it, just the little things like that, that's a good enough thank you for me.
That's dope.
When other parents they say little things like, wow, she's very respectful, or she's a nice child, those things. That's the biggest thank you that I feel like I can get
That's
out of
dope.
them.
Well, I was trying
And
to
I
leave it
will
for.
say this too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Little things like, I'll say, like, just genetically, my daughter, she clings to the piano and singing and music and different things of that. And sometimes you like, wow, how did you know how to do that? When you know that you never poured that into them.
Yeah.
Sometimes that stuff is kind of rewarding. It's challenging. The challenge of it is when you try to teach them, you feel like they should naturally know how to do it because you know how to do it. But
Yeah.
there's still a process that they got to go through, that we all had to go through. So it's different things in that nature. But yeah, I ain't gonna hold up the conversation with that. But it's
You setting my soul on fire, Doc, a lot. Woo!
I mean, do y'all aspire to have kids? Do y'all want children?
And a hush fell over Jerusalem. Yeah, man. I do, man. I do, man. I ain't gonna lie, I do, man. But I'm not rushing. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be with the right person at the right time, and all of that type of stuff. I don't want to have the right kid with the wrong woman. So I'm
Yeah.
just waiting and being patient and allowing God to do what He does, man. So, but I do aspire for somebody to carry the legacy.
You have
Same.
you got a great legacy, Doc. You got
Same.
a great legacy, man. Your
Oh yeah.
father was a great
Appreciate that,
man.
man.
Well, and you a great dude, my brother. So you definitely
Appreciate
have a
that,
great
my brother,
legacy.
for real. I do appreciate that, bro. What about you, Sean?
You didn't hear me. I said same. When I was younger, I used to like I've always kind of just wanted like family. You know what I'm saying? And they're not. I think parenting from my experiences with I don't know. I think y'all know I was married. I got divorced, but I had a child through marriage. You know what I mean? Not of my own loins. Thank you, Jesus. But I did I did Smurf was great. I did get that experience, and just growing up around being the favorite uncle and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I love the kids, but I understand even in those tenses, if you will, there's a part of it that you don't see, like the 24-hour presence and the just all of that. So all that to say, when I was younger, it was like, yeah, I want that, and I've been blessed again to even have experienced it in my then marriage, and even to be involved with a woman who has beautiful children. Like it's great, you know what I mean? But all of that to say, I was geeked about it when I was younger. Now that I'm older, I'm not against it, but it's not like I gotta do it. You know what I mean? Because I've experienced it of course, my mom is on my back, like I want a grandbaby, blah. But yeah. So I'm not against it, but I'm not. Again, it's not like on the top of my to-do list. I hope that doesn't sound crazy. I love the kids, but I'll be 40 in August, bro. So thinking about it, like 40, 20 years, I'll be 60. Like that's a big commitment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Let me ask y'all this: do y'all feel like what methods are y'all attempting once you guys have kids?
All we heard was, let me ask you this.
What methods are y'all attempting to get to raise kids? Because
what methods
I look at, are y'all attempting to raise kids? And I ask that because I'm thinking about, you have, when you think about Tiger Woods, you think about Serena Williams and her sisters. What's y'all thoughts on um, preparing them with a skill versus letting them kind of come into their own with whatever whatever they just want to do? What's y'all thoughts about that?
Tubbs, most senior elder is crazy.
Tis I.
I don't know why they catch that before, bro. That is gold. That is great. My bad.
And then say tis I.
I do want to respond, Smurf, but I'm gonna wait for somebody else to go.
It's so much greatness and congregational text points in what you share, Deacon Dakalak.
Nuts, man.
I think one thing that comes to mind is the scripture where God commands us to love our wives as Christ loves the church and gave himself for it. So I think that that responsibility kind of takes the precedence over seeing what we can get out of the marriage and out of the family, and just have that leadership top position of, I'm here to serve, I'm here to protect, and I'm going to love them so much that they will eventually love me back. So to have that same approach with children, it's kind of like you can't be too hands-on, because then it's more of a robotic relationship, and they may rebel, like many of us do, when we feel like we don't have a choice in our spiritual matters, like Jonah, or those prophets in the Old Testament, where they didn't want to do something, and God was like, "Oh, you're going to do it." And they tried to rebel and almost lost their lives. So it's kind of like we have to have that freedom with our kids to let them grow into the destiny that we see for them and what we've designed them to be able to lead them, but not force them, which is the way that God raises us. So it's tight, but it's right. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna let Prophet. Oh, go. I'm gonna let Prophet. No, let me go Prophet Hall so you can close us out.
Go ahead, JR. I just want to comment to that.
No, I just want to throw this out. One thing that I just normally see in them kind of situations is also the parents living vicariously through the kids, right? So,
wow.
And it's like you kind of want your kids to accomplish what you didn't. You get what I'm saying? And like Tubbs say, like sometimes they feel forced to do it because parents or whatever, just try to live through their kids and stuff like that, and they feel like Tubbs say, you feel forced to accomplish a lot of stuff that their parents didn't do, and like you said, limiting the freedom or the dreams that they have to for themselves. So I think it's a tight line, to really operate in that manner, because you're not really allowing your kids to really blossom into what God has created them to do.
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I was going to say the same thing about vicariously living through them. I speak just from observation, but I mean, I don't, you know, I've not had that pleasure yet.
Right.
But I've not heard of many parents saying, my prayer after having children is, Lord, what did you create my child to be? I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of ownership taken in that this is my child, like you said, vicariously living through, this is my child. You're gonna do what I want, you're gonna do what I see, and that's it. But the truth be told is, again, observationally, we're just conduits. Mary didn't have a say in Jesus's purpose when she was the conduit through which he came to the earth. So she was a part of God's plan, but she didn't get to say, Jesus, I know you God in the flesh, or, you know, I know this whole situation was real interesting, but you're gonna continue to be a carpenter, because that's what we do in our culture and in our family. Or you're gonna do what I see. Like there's a point where I think we have to totally, in christening services, right? We give our child back to God. They say, Lord, this is your child. I think we fully need to relinquish that control to say, okay, Lord, give me what I need to facilitate what you created this child for. Because at the end of the day, the child has to fulfill the purpose God created and not the purpose that we think they're best at or what they're good at. I put something up the other day on social media that said a lot of us are miserable because we're functioning in our gifts and not our purpose. How many people, I think about Ricky Smiley often, and if I'm mistaken, please correct me, but Ricky Smiley became famous through being a comedian, but come to find out he used to play in church like we do. Like, you know what I mean? So it could be an expensive situation. Your kid may one week be like, yo, I want to play drums, I want to play guitar, I want to play this, I want to do that. I do believe that there's rearing and, you know, like a pulling, and sometimes you gotta put parameters around them so they don't go crazy. But I do feel like I do feel like a lot of us intend to, like you said, vicariously live through our kids, and therefore some of them take longer to achieve the purpose God created them for.
That's good. That's good. That's good. No, I man, it's so funny because it's like I agree with some of the stuff that you guys said, and then there's like the other side of me when I look at, you know, you look at your Michael Jordan, you look at your what's the guy who play golf, Tiger Woods, man, they wouldn't be who they were, or even, you know, and I know this might be a bad example, but he was one of the greatest that ever did it, Michael Jackson. You know, if these parents didn't give them that discipline and you know, kind of give them that direction to kind of go in these places, man, who would have been our, like, I know I wanted to be just like Mike when I was when I was a kid, you know, and I'm not talking about Michael Jackson, you know, I'm talking about Michael Jordan.
Right.
But
let the
you know,
record
but
state.
then yes, but then having kids, I also see this in them. Like at their earlier ages, they don't really know what they want to do. You know what I mean? They like, look, I just want to have fun. So I do think it is a fine line that you really should, you know, give them some of the give them a trade. Like, you know, I feel like, first of all, y'all are some of the most impressive musicians and preachers on this line, producers and all that stuff. And I feel like we should, even if they don't use it, give it to them. And if they, I think they should, you know, because granted, my grandmother on my father's side played the piano. Didn't learn that till later on, but I'm glad that I have that trade, even if I didn't want to use it. And then again, we can keep passing it through a line through the generations. I think that's something that, and I don't think, but I don't. I also agree with y'all when you say you don't force it on them, though. You know, but that's just something that was just a little observation and just my own personal opinion that, um, man, I think we should give them that because that's a part of our lineage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
a good point because, like, you know, of course, I think, you know, kids can definitely naturally be born with certain inheritances, right? You get what I'm
yeah.
saying? And so, like you said, I mean, as a child, they really don't know what they do. And then most children, especially at a young age, imitate what their parents do. You get what I'm saying? And so, like Smurf said, it can be a thing of us, discipling them, and because I believe that's what parents is as far as biblically. Like they're not, even though we birthed them, they still not ours. Like you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Yeah.
we're just discipling them. We're just managing them for God and stuff like that. But I would say, I would ask y'all from that perspective that Smurf just said, like even though we may develop them and as they grow and all of that kind of stuff, we say, all right, like we look at them and say, hey, we want you to be a preacher or we want you to be a musician. But at what point does that cut off if we see other things evolving outside of them? You get what I'm saying? Like,
so can I so to that and I've said this often, this is not to knock any of the gifts, any of the fivefold ministry at any office in the church, not even musicianship, but I think and I don't want to give any absolutes, but from what I've seen, and it bothers me because every time I've been in a service where, what's up, Gary Diggs? That's my guy. Every time I've seen a service where the majority of times I've seen services where we're praying and speaking into the lives of kids, whether they're Christians or whatever, they're gonna be a preacher. They're gonna be a prophet.
I heard it all my life, man.
But it's not, but we rarely teach people how to function in these roles in the marketplace. So I never hear you gonna have a Forbes 500 company that's gonna make you $1 billion, like whatever. And through that, you'll reach lives that we may not be able to reach in the four walls or in a collar or with a staff or a miter or any. Like you understand what I'm saying? I think we become. I think it's so interesting because all of the gifts that the Lord gives, right? Our great, powerful, masterful, all-knowing, all-being, all-wise God. Everything He's given to us to be a blessing to the world, we want to keep in four walls of a church. And I think that's toxic. I think it's scary.
Yeah.
First of all, Brennan just propped in so deep. He just propped.
Yo, these names. I was about to say these names. I gotta.
Reverend Dr. Mixologist.
Our next Zoom service, I'm gonna be Apostle Deluxe Hall. something like that. Yeah. What up, Brennan?
And no, I'm gonna go with the what's that church? I'm gonna be on the next. I'm gonna be sweet daddy.
No. Let me tell you something. And I won't say the name of that church, but I was gonna say I won't say the name of it. But if you ever get a chance to go by there on a Sunday afternoon, I think it's in their church decree that they can cook, bro. I don't care where in the country you go to one of them churches, you going back for a second. Oh God.
They said
I heard they can cook now. I heard they got it.
I'm telling you, son, as I'm a witness to these things. Bro, they can cook.
They said this place over in Philly, they had the I forgot what the founder's name, but they had like Father Divine and his they facing the plate.
Listen, son.
Wow, that's crazy.
Good, good stuff. But JR, to my point, like I feel like that's one of the. Of course, ministry should always be the focus. I just don't know if everybody's in the church, who's out in the world ministering? Who's out in the world winning people? Again, that ain't never coming to the four walls. That ain't never streaming our Zooms now and our Facebook Lives and all that. Who's going out to these people and taking Jesus to them? By way of lifestyle, by way of conversation, behavior in those spaces where the Lord allows us to, if you will, infiltrate to still be a witness of Him and who He is. So to that, go ahead.
No. I mean, I'm tagging on to you, bro, because I think one of the things that we need to get out of, especially in this modern day ministry, is the fact that ministry ought to stay within the four walls of the church. Like we have to stop. And I mean, I ain't gonna say stop pushing that agenda, but that ain't the only agenda, if you will.
And the pandemic showed us that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? We have to know, like Sean eloquently stated, man, ministry now has to go beyond the four walls of the sanctuary. And guess what? I know we put a lot of emphasis on ministers and preaching, but guess what? I truly believe that all of us who are saved are ministers of the gospel, or at least
Should be.
ought to be. We all should carry the gospel along with us everywhere we go. And so,
Absolutely.
whether that be in church or the marketplace, like Sean said, or at Corporate 500, guess what? God
Yeah.
can influence us to be influential wherever we go.
Wherever we
So,
go.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, and I'm a witness in that. Like one thing I appreciate, even my apostle Sharon Robinson, like one thing she said, like growing up, I never wanted to play secular music. Like that was never my desire. Um, I never wanted to like really tour with artists like that. But she literally was like, son, you cannot keep that gift in church. Like that's not for you. Like you have to go out there. And I didn't understand it fully. Um, but she really told me that. She was like, you can't just keep that gift here. It's more for you. You can write songs, you produce, da da da. You cannot just keep it here. I just wanted to play at a big church growing up. That's all. And literally, it's like every artist that I've ever worked with, I'll tell them like, hey, I got to be back on Sunday. And some of them try to buy me out on Sundays. Some of them say, you know what, I
wow.
respect it. And literally, it's one of those things. So they respect your stance, and we're
Absolutely.
necessary out there because I believe some of the artists that I work with today as well, I'm with them because of the spiritual stand that we take. They like, wow, we need you because we feel protected because we have one of God's children a part of our
Mhm.
band.
Cook
Wow,
huh?
that's
So
crazy.
it's a thing. It's a thing,
Yo,
God.
and you know what? And like to keep just to remind, like considering the topic being about fathers, I think along with giving our gifts and our thoughts and our training, if you will, in holiness to our children, I think one of the things that we need to in our homes and even in our communities is to instill in young boys as men is the power and the habit of prayer, son. A
Yeah.
lot of guys
Wow.
like speaking about apostle your pastor Smurf, like a
Uh-huh.
lot of us grew up in church seeing women pray.
Hmm.
We didn't see fathers and men taking stance
Yeah.
in prayer. We may see them dance or they were preaching, so they were hollering and doing the text and all that. Like, and that I
Yeah.
get it. That's great. It's dope. It's necessary. But what about the consistency of what's gonna bless you when you're not in this church? When that organ ain't
Yeah.
blaring and it ain't about breaking down the text. Like
Yeah.
who are you gonna call and how you gonna call him in the time of need when ain't nobody around? We need to teach prayer
Yeah.
to them, son.
No, that's
Amen.
good.
And
Yeah.
and Smurf. Now, let me just throw this in, Smurf, before you go. And
Okay.
I think that's why natural fathers are so important to the home, man, because our children need to see us leading. You
To
get what I'm
emulate, yeah.
saying? They need to see us, and they don't. And I mean, I'm not. This is no disrespect, but I think one of the attacks on fathers right now is, especially natural fathers, and which we probably about to get into a little bit talk when we transition over to spiritual fathers, is the fact that there are other men outside of the home getting more respect from the kids than their natural fathers. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
And when you do that, that X's out that X's out the natural father from being able to establish their own relationship with their kids because they're being influenced by somebody else. You get what I'm saying? So
Yep.
Absolutely.
we have to start pushing natural father relationships with natural fathers, man. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the first ministry. And we'll go into that in a minute, but I have to say that.
No, no,
That's
that's
true for
that's
sure.
good. That's good. And I'm gonna tell you how powerful both things that y'all said, like Sean was saying, prayer. I remember the other like before my daughter go to school, I pray with her every morning. And one morning that thing got good to me and I start crying, right? And she stopped me in the middle of prayer. She said, Daddy. She was like, men don't cry. And
Wow.
so
Mm.
that was a teaching moment. And I was like, Well, I was like,
told you
babe,
that?
who told you that?
You
Right?
that?
Who told you that? Right? I was like, well, why? I was like, well, why? Why is Daddy making a jacuzzi out of these tears right now? You know? And so, so she was like, well, Daddy, men don't cry. And I was like, no, men do cry. I was like, that don't make us soft. We have emotions. We feel. I was like, we don't show them in all situations. Why? Because sometimes we have to be tough for y'all. So we can't really show our fear in that moment because we got to make sure that we keep y'all grounded. So at that moment, it was like, she was like, wow, I did, and I was like, no, it's okay for men to cry. I was like, we have feelings just like y'all, but the thing is, we gotta sometimes just keep ourselves in situations that don't allow us to show our feelings. Because if somebody came to try to rob my daughter or my wife or my sister or I'm not crying at that moment. It's time for war, So
Right.
in that moment, I can't show my tears. But
Right.
I was like, God has been too good for me to like hold back this thing right here, you know. But then in the other thing you
Yeah.
were saying about natural fathers is important. I'm gonna tell you one of the worst things in the world when you see a man that has not did anything for a child that you may even be raising, but then he come along and give them a gift from Five Below, and it's the best thing that ever happened to that child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a slap in the face, but the power in you being a father is it don't even matter because you being there alone outweighs and show her the consistency of what a real father is. You know, man, what I raised another. I have two daughters, and I have a granddaughter as well. So, it's fortunate to see when you're a father. Yeah, it's not the greatest feeling at all times when you see certain things. And I'm saying this to say, like, but when you made that commitment to stay and stick around, them kids they're gonna appreciate that later on. It's not a instant victory, you know what I mean? But when you make that decision to stay throughout the whole thing, that is going to teach them more than anything. Because when they meet these little boys that come around, they sticking around for a couple of days because they was trying to smash or whatever. Nah, they gonna look to their father and say, "Well, my dad been around this. I seen mommy didn't treat him the best or whatever, but he stuck it out." If that make any sense, and that's the power in being a father. Sticking stuff out even when it don't feel good. You know.
And you know what, Smurf? If I could add to that, it's. I think that's huge. Everything you said, I agree with, and even in how fathers deal with for both female and male child, even how fathers deal with that child's mother, whether you're married or not.
And
I
I was
think
getting ready to
that
say
bro,
that.
because you set up to your daughter how a woman should be treated, and you set up to your son how a man should treat a woman. Of course, the mother has a responsibility too, because it's interactive on both parts. But as a man, they're looking to you as the head of house. You get what I'm saying? Two things stood
Yeah.
out to me, and then you can have it, bro. I think it's crazy that Malachi 4, right, the last chapter of the Old Testament, before 400 years of silence, this is what it says. And behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. That's the last thing the Old Testament says before 400 years of silence and the beginning of the New Testament. So that relationship
Wow.
of father and child has to be of the utmost significance. I don't like to eisegetically apply scripture because I believe context is of the utmost importance. So I'm going to go study that because that's huge and there's so much that's probably in there. But that blew my mind, dog. I think it's so significant for reasons that we can't even say right now. Second to that, I think the relationship between father and child, specifically father and son, is and will always be under attack. And I know my apostolic brethren and sisters going to get at me for this, and that's fine. But it was the obedience of a son to a father that redeemed mankind. If Jesus was not submitted to the will of his father, none of us will be here right now in the regard of being saved and being Christians.
Wow.
My God.
Bishop Ralph Dennis has said, he had preached at my church about maybe 2 months ago or something. He said Jesus never loved the world. He said God loved the world. And because Jesus submitted himself to it, we have fellowship with God.
Wow.
Wow.
That blew my mind when he said that. He said the Bible didn't say Jesus loved the world, but God so loved the world.
Let me tell you something. These oneness people gonna kill us.
It's all right.
Because it's like Jesus is God and all that type of stuff.
I ain't worried.
We have some oneness and Trinitarians on here today.
That's right.
That's
right. But like, that just came to mind, bro. But is that not crazy though? If Jesus was not obedient, even when he questioned it, what was the clause, McDonald? If it be thy will, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. If God would have gave him the option to say, you know what, forget about it. It was the obedience of a son and the trust of that son to that father to say, no matter how I feel, no matter what I'm going through, no matter how this looks, I trust you enough to forget my will and to submit to yours. And here we are as a saved people because of that relationship.
Now, Sean, we don't want to get too deep. We don't want to get too deep on that, Sean, because that speaks of the hypostatic union. Oh my! How Jesus at that point was both God and man at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Yes, sir.
Man,
go ahead.
I'll say it in the natural. Man, in the natural, when your kids are obedient, that moves you. When they are bad, that thing destroys you. So, to your point, the obedience of it all will always move the Father. So that is powerful, brother. Y'all just said some good stuff.
It's crazy because Revelation says he was the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world. So before all this even happened, he was already in alignment and willing to do this.
Crazy.
And he waited 42 generations to come and do this.
It was already established before we became.
Be careful, y'all. Careful.
We only got a few minutes. We only got a few minutes now. We don't got time for revival.
Let me say one thing. I was reading and I was studying the term Shiloh, and it means piss. Not piss. I'm sorry, y'all.
That's what you got from Shiloh. My God.
That's that Message Bible. That's from that.
My bad.
That sounds like that Message Bible.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Thank you. I'm doing good, man. It means peace in the midst of pain. And then when we look at what's his name, Jacob, and Genesis 49, how he had blessed his sons. He gave prophetic words to each of his sons. It's nothing like when a father lays hands on you and gives him the blessing. Your father don't have to be a millionaire, but if he's like a man of God, he lays hands on you, man, you got a blessing from the Lord that can't nobody reverse.
Yeah.
Hey, man, and let me just say, first of all,
His grace.
Apostle Aaron has blessed us today.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Chief Apostle has entered the room.
Give us your greetings tonight. Give us your greetings tonight.
Well, greetings and salutations. Those of you that are on the scene and on the screen, grace, mercy, and peace be unto you. My father's children. I'm just glad to be in the house of the Lord tonight.
Oh yeah.
I got a good one for him.
I don't mean to. Yes, sir.
Chief Apostle Williams, we grant you grace tonight.
We grant you grace tonight.
The question is, how has the fathership of Bishop Willie James Campbell changed your life?
Oh man,
we transitioning now.
Yes,
man,
sir.
it has the blessing of the the fathership that he showed unto me is, I would say, priceless, naturally and spiritually. On the spiritual side, he taught me great discipline. I know. I know. I shared this story plenty of times. I remember years ago when we were on King Drive in Chicago, and the service was so high, man. I couldn't stand to play. So, man, I found myself on the floor. I was going after God like a hound dog after a rabbit. So one of the deacons tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Bishop said, get back in the organ." So, man, I came out of that thing. I was like, I'm trying to go after God. So indirectly, what he taught me is that when you feel the presence of the Lord, you still have a responsibility to minister.
Wow.
You can't go off on a tangent and just express yourself. You have to take what you feel at that time, and you have to channel it into what you're doing, because somebody might be like on the verge of getting their breakthrough, or on the verge of getting delivered, or anything of that nature. So you don't want to miss that moment, especially when you're serving. Another thing that he taught me, like, when you go to certain venues or churches, of course, you read the room, you feel the spirit of the room, and what you do, you don't allow the room to dictate to you the flow.
Wow.
You command that room, and you change the atmosphere according to what is needed. But so then, in order to do that, you can't be moved by the expectations of people, because expectations are not, everybody's expectation is not good. Some people expect their expectation of God moving in the service. That's one thing, but the expectation of you getting on the organ and just japping out is another expectation. So I had to learn that the hard way. So there were some places that we went to, and I felt the pressure of, doing what I do, japping out, drops, runs, and all that stuff. There was a couple times that Bishop looked back at me and said, "Boy, you better get spiritual." I was like, "Oh my God!" So I had to totally shut them out, and that takes discipline, because you got people standing over your shoulder with phones and their cameras out, and it makes you want to push the envelope, but you can't. In those circumstances, you can't do that. So that's what that's some of the things that he taught me. Then on top of then he taught me serving. So, walking through the airports, I'm carrying his bag, his whatever. I made sure that he didn't touch the door. I made sure I grabbed his suitcase off of the the luggage off the plane thing. Yeah, the conveyor belt. I just made sure that he didn't want for anything. So after he preached, help him change, get him in the room. Hey, Bishop, you need anything? You're hungry, whatever. So it taught me responsibility, because I had to be ready before he did.
Yeah.
Wow.
So just in case something happened, I had to be ready. Even though even he might have been late getting downstairs for lobby call, I still had to be ready. Because I had to be downstairs to say, hey, Bishop's on his way, or whatever the case may be. So that taught me to always be ready, always be aware of surroundings and situations, etc. So yeah, his lessons were invaluable. That I still use those today.
That's dope.
That's good.
Yeah, man. That's huge.
Sean, what you was about to say?
I was going to piggyback on that and say, we had the same rearing, Aaron, to my dad, Prophet Hall. He would do the same, man. And what I was gonna say, and I mean literally the same. Call time 7:15, you down there at 6:55. Like phone on. I don't care what, and sometimes that's coming back from eating lunch with the host pastor and they ministering before you come back and whatever, and you only got 25, 30 minutes. You got to make it happen. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
On so many levels. And I don't know about you, Aaron. I failed a few times, but it took a father to correct you, and with the responsibility, the discipline, I think, was Aaron's word, but with that comes a heightened level of submission. And again, I'm telling you, I've dropped the ball a number of times. Our youthful pride, and I know, and da-da-da-da. But let me tell you the truth, son. Like, there are lots of things that my dad could do that a Negro breathing in America couldn't do, because I don't have the same level. I wouldn't have the same level of respect to that person. I respect your title, I respect your call, but
nobody else.
If nobody in the world, if you know my dad, we could be in service and it's a hush that music. Like, they teach you sensitivity. They teach you a spatial awareness to what God is doing in the moment, even above what you hear, what you feel, what you think. You got to be tapped in. And that sometimes is a challenge, because I don't know where you at tonight, Dad, but I'm sitting here. So it's like, cameras out, phones, whatever, like you said, the expectation of the people. And it's like, oh, cool, I might be able to do this, or I might be able to do this, or this was cool last week, and the same thing you did this week. It's like, no, this ain't that. Tap in.
Right.
Lean into God. Like, don't, what is it? Thermometer, thermostat. Don't be a thermometer, be a thermostat. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just all of those necessary lessons that I hold dear right now, even when we travel. I am 6'3", all of these pounds, bless his holy name. But when I'm around my dad, dog, there's a heightened level of submission, in that even if I don't understand it, even if I don't like it, I'm submitted to it, to the wisdom, to the age, to the experience, to the relationship with God.
That's one thing I had to learn. Y'all hitting that on it now. I had to learn that.
Had to, bro. And like I said, there are some people that, because some people are like, yo, your dad killed you tonight. And I'm like, yeah, dog. But let me share a truth here that I haven't shared outside of some of my family. There were times that, because of my ego or my arrogance, that I was like, nah, I'm done. Like, I don't need this. You know what I mean? And like, enough people, you could work, you could do this, you work through all this stuff in your head, and then you leave. One of the craziest seasons of my life happened, and the only thing I wanted outside, we talking about father, so the only thing I wanted was my old man in my ear, whatever that looked like, whatever it felt like. I need it, because without it, you feel lost. If you've had it before, without that correction and that, you feel lost. You feel like, yo, I'm failing. I don't know where to go next. I don't know what to do. I don't know. Even in times when you can't say, Lord, I need you, or you talking to him and he may not be talking back. I need that voice. The thing that I didn't want to submit to at one time, the thing that my ego tried to convince me I didn't need, I need it desperately.
So man, let me ask y'all this. Wait, go ahead, Jay.
No, I was just ready to say, man, one of the things that spiritual fatherhood, if you will, taught me, man, was of course discipline and serving. But I think one of my top characteristics that has come from out of that is being able to cover. And and I can speak this, I mean, from my natural father, who was a pastor, as well as my pastor now, who is Bishop Brandon Jacobs. A lot of people don't, and Smurf knows this, but a lot of people don't know. Like, I was rocking with him before he even became a pastor. You know what I'm saying? Before he started New Zion Temple and all of that kind of stuff, we was all close and stuff like that. And man, one of the things that I feel like I've gained from out of that relationship is the characteristic of knowing how to cover leadership. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's a lost art, man, especially in this day and age that we're living in, because people want to be so quick to expose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People want to be so quick to expose the flaws in leadership, the flaws in the flaws of pastorhood, and all of that kind of stuff, man. But man, I think our fathers, man, our especially spiritual fathers, need people around them who can not only hold them up in ministry, but hold them up in life, period. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because a lot of, I think one of the things that's misunderstood is pastors are still men. You know, pastors are still women. They still natural. You get what I'm saying? And they don't understand that we hurt just like the next person. You know what I'm saying? We flawed, got issues, got problems just like the next person. And we all need people around us who we can trust and who we can lean on and depend on and stuff like that. So I've gained a heart, man, for, you know, I had a heart for my father. I have a heart currently. I covered him as a musician first, but now even as a pastor, you know, I'm even right now, man, I still cover him, man. I go on trips with him. I go to other churches with him. Like, I still haven't lost that art of serving. Like, wherever he needs me. If he sometimes I drive him, you know what I'm saying? Drive him around and stuff like that. Even though the Lord has blessed me with my own church, I still have not lost the sense of covering my pastor. You get what I'm saying? So
You
I
know
think
what's
that's
powerful and having fathering as well too. Man, they give you the blueprint so you don't have to make the same mistakes.
For
Like,
real.
that is so important to me. And I mean, like, because I have a lot of different fathers and mentors as well. Like, man, and I'll just say, just randomly in church, you know, just even learning how, you know, to teach your wife, I mean, to treat your wife, you get to be a father to a child, but also even having fathers in where you want to go musically, you know, mentors and fathership, like production, producing and stuff like that. If I didn't have that stuff, man, I promise you, I feel like I grew leap years around, I mean, around people that started with me only because I had somebody give me the blueprint that I didn't
Yeah.
have to go make the mistakes. Like, even just learning
Mm-hmm.
different DAWs, like Logic, Pro Tools, and stuff like that. It, to have a father teach you that, you feel what I'm saying? And now, not only that, like, I'll never
Mm-hmm.
forget, like, even financially. I remember when I first started to start making a little check. And the first thing I wanted to go and do was put some rims on my car. so,
Mm.
so it was like having a father there to teach you and say, Smurf, nah, that's not the way you need to do that. Nah, save your money, save your money. I'm like, man, nah. And then I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna get the rims. 2 weeks later, I go and get the rims. Bro, went to this concert,
Mm.
came, didn't realize these Hispanic guys was following me. Bro, went to
Gosh.
the studio, had the rims for 2 days. Went ran into the studio. Hey
Mm.
y'all, da 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 da. Come back outside.
Go.
I'm like, wait, I
Milk
thought I
cartons.
parked it. Yeah, car was gone, man. And but it was a learning lesson to listen to your fathers. They have the blueprint, and I promise you, that man. When I got my car stolen, that thing all and the worst part about it, I got it stolen in front of one of the guys that was fathering me, and
Wow.
he
wow.
looked at me. He had to call.
Mm.
He had to call. First of all, he got me out of trouble. He was like, "All right, look, we'll call the police. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take you back to the crib." Da da da. But then he said, "Smurf,
Didn't I tell
that's
you
why I told you not to get those rims."
Yeah.
So, but if we listen, it all makes sense. You know what I mean? But we have a responsibility as when they're teaching to have an ear to hear what they're saying. You know.
And you know what, Smurf, to that, I
Yeah.
had to learn. I had to learn. I think this present generation and some generations, even our generation and the ones before us, I think a lot of us put tremendous pressure on fathers or spiritual fathers, right? But we don't put in that we feel like, well, they don't know how to be a father. I don't want to be around that kind of father. Da, da, da. But we don't admit that some of us have to learn how to be sons. Some of us have to learn how to
Wow.
be
Mm.
submitted. Some
Oh
of us
yeah,
had to say,
definitely.
you know what? I think I know, but you, like you said, Smurf, you created a blueprint in that you've been where I'm trying to go. You've already traveled this road. So submission, and sensibility would say submit, but we don't want to do that. And I believe it's for a reason, because I've been hard-headed. But let me tell you, my old man taught he taught me integrity, because I've seen, Aaron, you probably seen this, all of y'all, because we've all played for great people. Thank God the one I travel with is my dad. But we've been to churches, dog, where he'll tell me ahead of time, being a grade A prophet, they're not going to do right at this church, blah, 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 blah. But the Lord told me to come. We got to bless them. I'm still going to bless you. I'm still going to take care of you. I know they're not going to do what I know they. And I'm like, all right, well, you sure? Like, I'm good. If you good, I don't need it now, son. You take it. Save your money. I was with him Friday. He says the same thing now. I'll be 40, dog, that he was telling me 15, 16 years ago. Save your money. I didn't listen 15, 16 years ago. Guess what I'm doing now, those saints? Listening. Save your money, son. Do this. When you go through things, even after we've disregarded their wisdom and their advice, the love of a father for real is that they're going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that I think a few of us have that we should appreciate and honor, because everybody don't have that testimony. A lot of these spiritual fathers, they're fleecing the people that they have for what they can get from them. And when they offend them, or when they done.
Yeah.
But I've had the blessing of being rebuked on big stages, small stages. I don't care where you are. I'm talking about sir. Wait, well, but God, what did I do to deserve that? Or, you know what I mean? So I've had the blessing of all of that. But with that, I really have a father that don't care about your gift past your character, that don't care about your anointing past your integrity, or you being a man of your word or somebody of discipline. Dog, we're blessed, yo. We're blessed.
Yeah, Sean, I think, man, I know we ain't got too much longer, but I think one of the quickest ways for us to be discouraged, and I'm talking about for people who have those expectations as you just displayed, or expressed rather, one of the quickest ways we as spiritual sons and daughters can be discouraged is to expect our spiritual father to handle us naturally. And it's like you're clinging on to your spiritual father because you're missing something from your natural father. Right. And the issue that we run into that is when we don't get the gratification of the spiritual father, then we feel some way, we feel some type of way towards them, when in reality that was never their job in the first
their responsibility.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And
that's powerful,
man. Like you said, man, we put so much emphasis on the fathership, but we don't put a lot of emphasis on what it is to be a son or a daughter.
Right.
Man. Jay, that's powerful. Everything y'all just said. I think one of the biggest mess ups too is, as fathers, we're not transparent enough.
Wow.
I feel like we gotta show them the bad too. Like, and not only that, when you can, well, let me say how I say this. Let me say how I say it. But no, one of the things is, and being transparent with our children, a lot of times you got to explain certain things to them so they can understand this was still out of love. You know, um, I know I have to send a lot of my spiritual fathers and stuff like that, and natural fathers. Some things we don't agree with, but in having certain conversations, meaning I'm having this conversation to hold you accountable. This now allow you the space to now tell me why you do this. Like, for instance, there's certain spiritual fathers that I had that, they just did things that I didn't think was very integral. Those things also taught me to be a better father, because it also said to me, like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want that name. I don't want that named among me, or I don't want that stigma, or I don't want that. So it's also good to, like, be able to see the fault in them, and really have those conversations, because what it hold them accountable, but then it also make it also is a red light for you as well to say, hey, I don't want that part of this father on me. If that make any sense, did that make any sense?
Oh yeah, makes sense.
All right, cool.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
That's our time, fellas. Talk in the comment section, and we'll see about 2 because we only had an hour tonight. Lord.
The people already want a part.
We'll
2,
be back,
so we might have to give it to them.
My God.
For it, so.
Yes,
you know what? You know what we should do? We should just have a Facebook revival.
A Facebook revival.
Meet us here every night at 7 p.m.
Don't meet us there. Beat us there.
Cups empty. Huh?
Stay up, fellas.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Peace.